As one of DC's most beloved vigilantes, the Winged Man in Black has made a name for himself as the defender of Gotham. But is he really? Once you begin to peel back the layers of Kevlar, money, and nifty gadgets, you're left with a man filled with rage, and the glaring reality that Batman actually hates the poor. Hey guys, it's Donna. Now you may be thinking, how can you say that? He fights crime in Gotham. You know, if you really stop to think about it, you will begin to notice for yourself that his fight for so-called justice is looking more and more like Batman kind of punching down. Yes, in my most controversial video yet, we dig deeper into Batman's possible hate for the poor people of Gotham City. Also, as we progress in this video, we will be analyzing the Batman world and character as a whole, so I don't want to hear any comments saying, hey, that's not canon to DC, blah blah blah. Before you scream out all of the supervillains he's fought, relax, we'll get to that. Looking at who Batman targets on the day-to-day first, rather than the occasional supervillain, it's undeniable that a lot of his focus is on muggers, burglars, and petty theft. While the victims of these crimes do deserve justice, these are activities police are theoretically capable of handling themselves. So it's interesting to note that Batman hardly spends his nights targeting those white-collar workers, or politicians dealing in fraud and other illicit activities. The countless cases of embezzlement and bribery within Gotham's justice system that police, for obvious reasons, will not touch, should be a high priority for this superhero. However, it's not. Instead, Batman turns his attention to crime typically done by those below the poverty line. Okay, like if Batman or some superhero were to come down in real life right now, I'd want them to go after criminals normal police departments can't go or won't go after. You know, like the list of names in a log from this guy that owned this island. You know, individuals who have money, power, and status often supersede the law. So it'd be nice for a superhero to level the playing field just a little bit. But Batman doesn't go after this type of criminal. This distorts his image as a fighter for justice. To truly understand why Batman is the way he is, we need to start at the beginning. At the age of 8 years old, he witnessed his wealthy socialite parents brutally murdered in front of him. That alone would make for years of trauma for any person, comic or not. But this is where we first see Batman, or should we say Bruce, as he hadn't taken on his alter ego yet. This is where we see his view of the world take shape. Who is bad? Who is dangerous? It was this moment that a mugger had killed his parents, a petty criminal. I mean, obviously considered petty before the murder, but you get what I mean. It was at this point he swore an oath to avenge his parents' death. Everything this mugger represented was evil, including his class. Even entering adulthood, there are many moments where we see this event haunt him. We can use Matt Reeves' 2022 The Batman as an example. In the movie, Bruce Wayne is portrayed as this pale, almost sickly-looking person. Any mention of his parents' name or their death sends a physical shudder through his body. His childhood left him with a lack of trust, but opened his mind's eye to the darker side of people. There are many online discussions about the mental state of Batman and whether or not he suffers from PTSD. In many of the arguments, people have pointed out certain behaviors that coincide with trauma. One side effect, according to the National Library of Medicine, is the tendency to engage in risky activities.
I'm not afraid of you.
Because you think you got nothing to lose. But you haven't thought it through. You haven't thought about your lady friend down in the DA's office. You haven't thought about your old butler. Bang!
Another side is an abnormal reaction to emotions and events. In Batman comic number 47, his origin story, Bruce Wayne makes a vow to fight crime and avenge his parents' death. Fair enough. That is a relatively normal reaction of grief and rage. What isn't so normal, and what kind of feels like something that speaks volumes about the unstable psyche of a person, is what he did next. Upon declaring an oath to avenge his parents' death, Bruce remarked, "My disguise must be able to strike terror into their hearts. I must be a creature of the night." To want to create something so dark and twisted only speaks to the pain and grief he felt. Is this still a part of justice? Or is it more motivated by needing his targets to feel as he did when he was just 8? Aside from the occasional supervillain, who Batman targets on the daily just seems to be another iteration of the mugger that murdered his parents. While it may seem like a net positive on the surface, it actually may make Gotham's rising crime rate worse. White-collar crimes or high-level corruption is the driving force behind those poor criminals on the streets. Who is doing the dirty work for these higher-ups? Politicians are not going to kill whistleblowers or murder those in their way. They have their lackeys for that. In fact, there is a strong correlation according to the World Population Review between crime rate and poverty and unemployment. So, if you're one of those people that think sneaky politicians pocketing taxpayer money instead of using that to help their people is a victimless crime, according to the data, you're wrong. There's no way Batman doesn't know better than fighting petty criminals over the root problem. Instead, though, he chooses to punish the poor. It's clear he has the technology to fight the elite, but it's rarely used for that. And this cycle never ends. Criminals continue to create personas and become supervillains to combat Batman, causing more damage to the city. They target Gotham City as it is Batman's city.
So you came back to die with your city.
Think about the fights with the Joker and Bane, and the destruction that follows. Who cleans that up and rebuilds it? Not Batman. The city does. So, what is his hard-on for the poor?
What's yours?
I'm sorry?
Why do you hate the poor?
What are you talking about?
And do you think your hands are clean from this too?
Hey, can you not be mean? You know, I really need them to like and subscribe, so, be a little nicer, you know? It is easy to use trauma as a scapegoat for one's hatred of the poor. Certainly, this event may have been exacerbated for Bruce Wayne, but we kind of hate the poor too. Spanish political philosopher Adela Cortina coins the term aporophobia in her book Aporophobia: Why We Reject the Poor Instead of Helping Them. She compares the term to xenophobia, which is the fear of foreigners. This, without a doubt, can lead to reprehensible behavior such as racism, but in the natural world may have been used as a survival mechanism. Whoa, those are strangers right there, we don't know them, they may be dangerous. For this reason, it was completely normal to desire being surrounded by others who were like you. Now, while it was common to hate outsiders, we were still able to surmount this human obstacle. I mean, sort of. It is better now than it was before. You get the point. But this demonstrates we are a flexible society, and we can improve our standards based on understanding. Cortina argues that today's biggest problem is not xenophobia, but aporophobia, rejection of poor people. And you can kind of see that in this trend here.
It's considered trashy if you're poor, but classy if you're rich.
Owning too much stuff. If you're poor, then you're cluttered and a little gluttonous. But if you have the same amount, but you have money, then oh, you're living a life of abundance.
Being able to speak multiple languages when you're a child, or just in general.
Eating ramen.
I'm gonna go with Florida.
For some reason, if rich people do it, it's eccentric and cool. But if poor people do it, it's trashy and low class. Now, some of the rationality for this, according to Cortina, may be parallel to xenophobia. We still desire to be surrounded by others like us. However, who we are like is no longer, for the most part again, dictated by race, but mostly by class. In a democratic society, most of our values for the economy is as follows. The goal of the economy would be to create wealth and equality, eradicate poverty, and reduce injustice. Encouraging economic citizenship would be another project of this common dream, encouraging citizens to become agents in decision about what is produced, for whom, and why. While the goal is a noble one, the byproduct is rejection of any behavior or any person who seems to be in opposition of this goal, rejection of the poor, and any behavior related to that. So for me to be a good economic citizen, I must separate myself from anything in conflict with this economic ideal. This allows for the creation of luxury goods. This is me. I'm not that. It's okay for these people to want that, but just so you know, I'm not like them. I worked hard for what I got. And there will continue to be this separation from the haves and have-nots. While Batman's original creator may have had no intention for any of this, this Dark Knight is a stellar symbol for our own hate of the poor. In a spin-off Batman comic series, in fact, Heroes in Crisis, Bruce Wayne only attended 3 therapy sessions before giving up the Batman persona. This solidifies the idea that Batman is a coping mechanism for Bruce Wayne's childhood trauma, and if addressed, can be resolved. Similarly, Cortina argues with better understanding, aporophobia can also be resolved. For now, we will continue to romanticize crimes from the likes of Jordan Belfort, while collectively being enraged by the guy stealing $300 from the cash register. Even on a smaller scale, quote unquote, guys who scam their audiences are bad, but hey, they're marketing geniuses. Unlike those shoplifters, social media, or maybe even just our phones and internet, is the greatest tool we have to band together and put a stop to crime that supersedes the law. But just like Batman, we don't do that. Instead, our focus is on the local Karen, or the latest celebrity mishap. That's the end of the video. I will see you guys next time. Stay psyched. We can use Matt Reeves' 2022 The Batman as an example. Sorry, I don't know why that was funny. Okay. Even entering adulthood, there are many moments where we see this event haunt him. We can use Matt Reeves' 2022. It's not funny.